So just a reminder as always that if you've got any comments, questions, anything you want to share, just drop them in the comments. If I'm on a bit of a roll with a thought, I'll finish the thought and then I'll go back and read it and try and answer or respond to what you said. If you can't stay for the whole thing, no worries. It's going to be on my Instagram story for another 24 hours and then I always put it on YouTube afterwards. And if you go onto my YouTube channel, Andi Osho, then you can see all the previous ones, and we've talked about subjects like rejection, criticism, the hustle, all kinds of different things. Everything basically related to a creative. And the reason I wanted to do this is that I've been looking for this type of conversation and haven't really found it. Like something that's geared specifically towards creatives, because there's always sort of life coaching and, self-help gurus and all that sort of stuff, and personal development gurus and all that sort of talking about stuff, but they're always talking about life in general. And I thought, well, creatives have a particular set of challenges and a particular sort of outlook and a particular way that we've got to sort of be in the world. So I thought it would be helpful maybe to have a conversation that's geared specifically towards creatives. And it doesn't mean if you're not working professionally as a creative that this doesn't relate to you, because I'm sure it does. Your position as a creative is by your own definition, not by other people's. Hello Martin May, welcome. As the other day, I was thinking how I was kind of laughing about how when I don't know if other sort of creative art forms do this or whatever. Anyways, when I first started doing stand-up, a lot of people used to say you can't consider yourself a stand-up until you've done X amount of gigs. It was always just slightly fewer gigs than they had done. So say they had done 10,000 gigs, they'd be like, well, you can't consider yourself a stand-up until you've done 5,000 gigs. Yeah. Because it's like, oh, that makes me a stand-up and it makes you not one because you're a newbie. And I always thought that was really funny. It's just like, to me, if someone wants to define themselves as a creative or as an artist, regardless of whether they have a full-time job in an office and they do this thing on the side or that's how they make their money, then that's what they are, because that's what they've decided they are. It's up to them, do you know what I mean? It's not up to somebody else to sort of... And the thing is, that number, related to the stand-up comedy, that number was always different depending on who you talk to. Oh, you've got to have done 1,000 gigs, you've got to have done 10,000 gigs, you've got to have done an Edinburgh, you've got to have done a tour, and it went on and on and on. Hey, Maria! Hello! How are you? So I just thought I'd throw that in as a thought. Anyways. So this topic this week is money. Here's the notes. This is where we're going, guys. This is our roadmap. Doesn't fill you with a lot of faith, all these scribbles. Money is an interesting topic because as I was sort of, again, like putting these things together is always a little sort of journey for me as well, because it makes me think about my own situation. It makes me think about what do I really actually know about this topic. Like last week when we did the mental health one, I was like, shit, I actually don't know anything, and I don't want to be disrespectful of people that might be going through something. I don't want to be like spouting advice. You should do this, you should do that. And so I felt kind of similar with money. Dagenham and proud, welcome. In the sense that I know what I know. I've had my own experience, but I also want to be respectful when I talk about this stuff of people that might be in a situation, might be in some sort of financial difficulty, or might have circumstances that other people can possibly understand. So I don't want to be spouting ideas and stuff that make it sound like it's all terribly easy to become rich. And also I want to acknowledge as well that I'm in a position where I've worked for a long time and sort of built myself up to be able to command a particular fee. And so, immediate money concerns, I don't have them. So I don't want to talk from the perspective of everybody's living the same as me. Do you know what I mean? Because that's not cool. But I also want to maybe loosen our grip on some of our beliefs that we have around money. Because I have been there. I've been to those places where, I remember when I first started working as an actor, well, I'm going to put it in quotes because actually what I was a receptionist and I was a barmaid and I was, doing like 3 jobs at once. And I didn't have any money. So I have been there. So I understand. And I also didn't grow up into a family that had a lot of money. And I was thinking the other day how my mum was one of the few women who was actually better off when her husband left her, because my dad was so financially illiterate, and also he was actually, you know, financially he was quite destructive to our family. So my mum was, you know, one of the few women was just like, this actually works better for me. Carly, hello, literally just started. I was just prefixing it by saying that this talk about money, like I don't want to just be spouting like advice or whatever, or not acknowledging that everyone's got circumstances and stuff that they're living in, but I just wanted to sort of maybe shake free some of the ideas that we might have about money, and see where we end up. Ian and Dan, thanks for joining. Hello, hello, hello. So that's all to you know, to set the context sort of in a way. And what I realized as well is that, you know, money is a very touchy subject for everybody. And it's a sort of subject, rather like parenting, and there's certain subjects that just make us just lose our logic a little bit. Like we get, and I think what it is that we become so identified with our money and our beliefs about money, that sometimes it can be difficult to think logically, because I think we all have beliefs about money that aren't necessarily true, or that aren't necessarily empowering. More 4619 confabulations. Good, oh, welcome back. So I just wanted to talk about that, because sometimes the beliefs that we have about money aren't necessarily always true. So, you know, I can't hold on to money. Only rich people get given freebies and free things, or windfalls don't happen to people like me, or you have to work hard to get your money, or, you know, all these sorts of ideas. And they come from all around us, and we take them on as beliefs that aren't necessarily true. So also our parents' relationship with money, I think, makes a huge difference as to what our relationship into adulthood is like. Nick says, have you ever heard that money is the root of all evil? Yeah, I mean, I remember I had a really good friend who's like a born again Christian, and he often talked about money being the root of all evil. And then he said, that's not actually true. He said the love of money is the root of all evil. So so maybe, you know, Christians had found another way of relating to money. And then you got this Joel Ornstein guy, or whatever his name is, you know, this American pastor that's got this enormous church. It's like a football stadium. That guy loves money, and he thinks it's a very Christian thing to have abundance and to want abundance and to create it. So I think even associating money and evil is a belief system that we've got, because money is just money. You know, it's like a gun is just a gun. It's what you do with it that is the issue. And money is the same thing. You can use money to be massively destructive. You can use money to control people. You can use money to help people. You can build things. You know, you can create things with money. So it's not. So I don't even know. It comes from that sort of more puritanical mindset. Hello, Citizen Joke, thanks for joining. It comes from that sort of almost puritanical mindset that somehow having abundance and wealth and money must mean you are up to something. Because look how we talk about, you know, rich people. And, you know, we labelled them the 1%, or the other half, or it's not even half, is it? I mean, it's literally like 1%. We've got all these, you know, pejorative terms for people that have money, when actually we don't know whether they're good people or bad people. We don't focus on the money that they give to charity, or the good that they might do, or even the amount of tax that these people are paying. These people, you know, say someone like Jimmy Carr, who gets a lot of shit. I'm not going to defend or whatever tax avoidance or whatever if that's what he did, but say someone like him, he probably gives the same amount in tax every year, even with his alleged avoidance, as a whole street of people. But we don't think of it like that, because we think that if someone's got, then they must have done something wrong. They must have done somebody over to get it. Carly says, I have a real issue with others boasting about what they have, or equally to go on about the bargain they got. Being tight both ends just gets me. Yeah, I mean, I think that the reason that people need to talk about what they've got is, you know, it's obviously an ego thing. There's obviously some level of insecurity, which means that they need some validation from you to let them know that they're worth something because they've got these things. Me and my mum, we do actually do that bargain thing. Like, guess how much it was? Guess how much? 20 quid. 20 quid. Whole outfit, 20 quid. So we love doing stuff like that because I think because we didn't come from a lot of money, I guess maybe we've got a mentality where it's just like, if something costs less than we think it should, then we just want the world to know. But I mean, who knows? Who knows what's going on with somebody that boasts? But I always think that, you know, you think when I think about what normal behavior is for someone that has a lot, I always picture Brad Pitt. Not because he's hot or anything, but just I always think like, do you think Brad Pitt sits around going, look at my house, look at my amazing, look at all my cars, let me show you my bank balance, let me show you how much I've got. I just can't picture him doing that. And to me, I imagine that is more the epitome of somebody who is comfortable with their lot and doesn't feel the need to get validation from outside of themselves for what they have, that they're comfortable in their wealth, sort of thing. But anyone who's just like, see this watch? Yeah, see this watch? This tells the time in like 15 different time zones and it cost me 20,000. It's insured for 30. You know, that sort of thing is just like, yeah, no, that's a turn off for everybody. Money talks, people mumble. Say some more about that, Ian. I'm not sure what you mean. Money can't bring you happiness. That is not true. I use money to buy my business off my father, and I'm very happy now. I'm going to come to money and happiness later on, more 4690. But it's another one of those things where money isn't just money because we've got so many associations with what it can possibly mean. Ellen says, yes, I'm a bargain hunter. People love bargains. And the interesting thing about bargains is that it's only a bargain if it costs less than you think it should. Even if it's expensive to somebody else, if you personally think that thing should cost more, then you consider it a bargain. It's like with the housing market. You know, houses getting sold for a million quid where, you know, 5 years ago they were going for 500. And why are they selling for $1 million? Because someone has decided that it's worth it. And that person might have been looking at houses that are 1.5 million. They see this house for 1 million. They go, bargain. It's all relative. Bargain is a relative thing. Nick says, I think about how celebrities think about how much they have as well. Yes. I mean, they have. But it doesn't make them bad people. They've worked for it as well. So, I mean, look, I'm not going to get into just defending rich people here. This is more about what we can do for ourselves. Carly says, I like bargains too, by the way. It's more where people are coming from. Absolutely, yeah. If people are just like, I think we all know that there's a way that people can be vulgar with their money, or the talk about their money. Like, I remember once I earned, a nice sort of fee for a voiceover job, and I was talking to a friend who, in hindsight, I shouldn't have said it, but I was like, guess how much I just, like, because I was so shocked at, like, it was you get repeat fees for something, and I just was really shocked at how much had come through. And I realised that the person I was saying it to really was having difficulty with money, and it was incredibly vulgar of me to say this to her, because it was like an amount of money that would have, made a big difference to her, and I had just earned it. And that was a lesson to me, and just to be more discreet about these sorts of things, because people are sort of personally identified with their money and what they have or what they don't have, and it's kind of vulgar to dump your sort of good fortune onto them without any thought. Do you know what I mean? Kaisha and Troy Caster 123 have just joined. Welcome. Just talking about money. And I was just saying a little bit about my sort of like history with money, because my as I said at the beginning, my dad was like not very good with money. I remember my mum and dad used to live, my mum and dad told me that they used to live in Islington. And, anyone that knows London knows like what the price of property is like in Islington now. And my mum said, we should buy somewhere. And my dad's like, buy? What do we want to buy? What do we want to buy a property for? And the rest is history. So he also was quite deceitful in terms of money, and yeah, he was not a good guy. So basically he left my mum, and she was actually in a better position eventually, like without him. But because we didn't have anything, I think what got planted in my mind was that money and things were just this holy grail, and if you could get things, then you would be happy, sort of thing, because we did not have things. I think we had more than I remember that we had, but it felt like that's the idea that got planted in me, is that we didn't have, and everything had to be restricted, and we couldn't have any sort of luxury items. That's what it felt like. I'm not saying that was what was true, but that's what it felt like. And then, so when I started earning money, like around 16, I got my first job. I remember I spent half of my very first paycheck just on crap, because I had never had £80 put into my bank account before, and that started a cycle of just spending and spending and spending and spending and spending. I found it very difficult to hold on to money because of that mindset that had been planted very early on. I'm not blaming anybody, but you know, like you grow up in a particular environment and you take on certain ideas, and you see these ideas validated, and therefore you continue to believe that they're true. So I believe that, you know, things would make you happy, so I just continually bought things and spent things and was very hedonistic and just like went out loads, and you know, just went out for dinner like 3 or 4 times a week, and you know, we went to the pub all the time, and you know, just spending it on nothing, clothes, loads of clothes. And it got to the point where round about 27, 28, where I was just like, sort of looking around my bedroom thinking, I'm still living at my mum's place at this point, so I'm still under my mum's roof. I'm like, I don't have anything. Like, I don't have any assets. The only thing I have, I think, was a bass guitar, which I still have. But I don't have anything. And it was just a little tiny penny was dropped, and then I sort of forgot about it. And then my cousin came to stay with us, and she gave me this. She was from Nigeria, and she's very sort of like intentional and very into sort of developing and growing as a person and all this sort of stuff. And she gave me this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. Now, I don't know what she saw that she thought, you know, this girl needs this book. But I was like, yeah, I'll read it. I sort of read it first. And it was just like, holy shit. So basically, Rich Dad Poor Dad it's a sort of financial literacy book about this guy. He tells a story about how his dad was very studious, very academic, had a job for life type of sort of mentality, and his friend's dad was, you know, dropped out of college, very entrepreneurial, and was rich. His dad earned a salary, but this other guy sort of had this sort of multiple stream income thing going on. And so the book is really about learning how to become more financially literate. And I suddenly realized, shit, because one of the big things that I took away from it is he was talking about assets against liabilities. This was an idea I had never heard of, but he was basically saying, as people get more money, what they tend to do is acquire liabilities. So basically, they're acquiring things that they have to pay for that aren't earning them any money. In fact, they're reducing in value as time goes on. I was like, fuck yeah. So like, it's things like getting Sky TV, buying a brand new car, when you get a pay rise, buying a bigger house. Well, I'm not going to include houses because they can be an investment, but sometimes people buy a bigger house and take on a bigger lifestyle because they've got more money, rather than how can I make this money, you know, start to work for me, start to, you know, make me an income instead of me having to make an income for these new things that I've got. I was like, fuck, he's right. Like, that it hadn't occurred to me of the difference between, and he said the middle class, that is the thing that the middle class do, is they constantly acquiring these liabilities that cost them. And so they have to earn more money. They have to just keep earning money. They have to keep that job, or they have to keep in employment to be able to satisfy the demands of all these liabilities that they're taking on. Whereas the other mentality is to get your money to work for you. So rather than you working for your money, you get your money to work for you. You start to make investments. You start to, Anyways, let me just go back on your comments just to see. Carly says, my point is you can be vague at both ends. People assume that on rich people. Hot topic, Andy. Oh yes. Nick James says, like John Paul Getty not paying his grandson's ransom, just wanted money for himself and always wanted more. Wow, I didn't know about that. Amelia Katie's joined. Nosha 1964 has joined. Welcome. Citizen Joke says, when I was a kid, Washington poor, still had fun. Now I have money, still having fun. Realise that money isn't that important. Now I use more of a barter system. Works perfectly. Fantastic. Washington equals poor. Oh, okay. Damn you, autocorrect. Okay, fair enough. Cool. So that was the sort of notion that got planted in my mind. And then what happened is after that, so I read this book, and again, it was one of those things, it didn't like immediately make a difference, but it was one of those things that just like was brewing inside of me of just like this new sort of understanding. Because the other thing I should mention actually is at that time I had 3, maybe 4 credit cards on the go. You know, 2 of them I'd maxed out, so I'd taken out another credit card to pay off the previous one, and then I'd maxed out the new credit card. Then I got another one where they gave me like 14,000 pounds of credit. Why? You know, but when I saw it, I was just like, I genuinely consider myself to be rich because I had access to this credit. But they were like, they're probably seeing my sort of spending activity and thinking, this is going to be a good bet for us. We're going to make a lot of money off this person because look how much debt she continually acquires. And I think I ended up taking out loans to pay off my debts. And years ago, a friend of mine became a financial advisor, and he had encouraged me to take out a savings sort of plan. I can't remember exactly what it was, but you basically put the same amount in every month. And eventually it matures after 10 years. When it matured, the only thing I could do with it is pay off my credit cards. That's how bad I was with money. Lucky that money came through, but bad that I couldn't do anything significant with it other than pay off credit card debt. And credit card debt was for meals out and got nights at the pub and clothes and, you know, crap like that. It wasn't for anything that would mean anything. But that's fine, because that was then. Then I started working as a creative. Then I started working as an actor and a writer. Or should I say I transitioned to that. I didn't start working immediately, and some of the stuff I was doing was for free. But what happened was I suddenly realised that mentality, or not suddenly, but over time I sort of realised that mentality isn't going to work because I don't have that same income. My income went from, I think I was earning like 35 grand. I sort of had a regular desk job. I was working as a post-production supervisor, so it equated to about 35 grand a year. This was like 2003. And I went to working in a pub, earning, I don't know, like 6 or 7 quid an hour. I was temping on reception desk, again, 6 or 7 quid an hour. I got a job as a tequila girl, which was, I think, the worst job I've ever had. So what I'm basically saying is my income just went right down, and I realised you can't fuck around when you haven't got any money. You have to start getting really smart about how you spend it. Excuse me, about how you spend it. So it was just a big change for me in terms of just my mentality. I realized that I have to approach it in a different way. And so all that sort of stuff that the rich dad, poor dad thing, and realizing I don't have any assets, and, you know, seeing that I don't have any things sort of thing to show for, you know, however many years on the planet I'd had, all started to sort of, thankfully they started to manifest. And I realized that there's some things I think that we need to do as artists, because it's easy to have this mentality. It's just like I said in my little Instagram post before, like it's all for the art. But actually, we can have both. You know, we can be financially literate, we can have abundance actually, and we can create the work that we want to create. And a little bit of freedom, financial freedom, will allow us the space to just have our minds, you know, on our work rather than how am I going to pay my next bill. Wax Pusher, heya, welcome. So these are some of the things that I've been thinking about that I've sort of realised over time. So one of them is about this idea of getting our money, definitely David one, welcome. One of them is getting our money to work for us rather than us working for it. Because we don't want to be in a relationship of the salary employee employer type of dynamic, because that's a world that we kind of opted out of by deciding to be a creative in the first place. Because if that's the relationship you want, you might as well just get a job in an office. We've opted out of that, and so we need to find ways for our money to start working for us. One of the things that I think we have to do as creatives is to have less liabilities. We need to lessen those liabilities that are gonna be a drain and are costing us money. This is, by the way, talking from the perspective of if there is a problem. If your setup is good, then a lot of what I'm going to say is going to be irrelevant to you, because you're going to be like, I'm fine, I'm actually fine, I've got enough money and everything's fine. But there might be someone who's listening who's just like, I am struggling, or I do want things to be better or different from the situation I've got. So I guess this is more for you. The other people can just go, I'm already doing that, so you can just give yourself a pat on the back. But I think, reducing your liabilities if there is a problem, financial problem or challenge that you're in, is a great way to start. Also, managing debt, because I'm in the States at the moment, and they have a huge problem with debt here. I mean, I watched a film last night called Step, and it's about this sort of almost like high school dance troupe. But a lot of the film is about these girls applying for college. And I'm just watching this film thinking, this college thing in America is a fucking racket, because they were talking about, some of these colleges, $40,000 a year. And if this girl's coming from, an underprivileged background, where is she going to get that money from? Well, it's going to be a loan. And I think George Bush, it was, that passed some law that if you declare yourself bankrupt, your student loan is the one debt that cannot be wiped off the slate. Now, how about that? So debt, managing your debt and finding a way to make it the least expensive it can be is, I think, one of the biggest things that one can do for oneself. Getting rid of the most expensive debt as well, because credit card is the most expensive debt, and there's payday loans. Obviously, there's a reason why they're so short, because they're so expensive. So if you had that over a year, you'd end up bankrupt anyways. But so reducing your debt, getting rid of the most expensive ones, and then also getting rid of the longest ones where possible. Just bashing money on your mortgage if you can. I know that that's not possible for everybody, but those long debts, or those expensive ones, are the ones to get rid of. Definitely David 1 says it looks very bright there. It is bright. It's, what time is it? It's 11:30. So yeah, it's bright because it's the morning. Carly says liability, having a child. Oops, too late. But you're making it work. I don't get a sense. I mean, anyways, I'm not going to talk about your situation, but it seems like everything's like groovy with you guys. Jamie Miles 89 has just joined the conversation. Welcome. And then once that's been done, so lessening those liabilities, lessening the debt where possible, it's about passive income. It's about, I hear this term all the time, but multiple income streams. Basically not putting your eggs in one basket, having things out there, money or items or property of some nature that can work for you. Now, from an artist's point of view, I think the easiest piece of property you can have and get your hands on is intellectual property. What you've written, what you've created, what you've painted, all these things, your photographs, your work, all these things are an intellectual property that can be out there working for you. Now, there may be some way where you've got stuff that actually could be earning you a bit of passive income that you don't know about. I know people that have written what they call library music or production music, which is not music that's sort of for musicians and charts. It's music that might get used. You buy a license to use it for an advert or incidental music in a film or something like that. And an ex of mine, he wrote some music, and he just gets this check every now and again because somebody used his music on an ad or something like that. And the weird thing is, I actually know the track. Once he played it, I was like, oh yeah, I've heard that. So yeah, that's another way of passive income. I'm sure, I don't know, I mean, there's people are listening from so many different fields. I don't want to start addressing specifics, but like, there's always ways that your environment, your particular discipline has ways where you can earn a bit of sort of passive income from it. Like for stand-up comedians, there's so many outlets for content and so many places looking for content that they might want to buy a routine of yours. If you can make a decent recording of your routine, you might be able to sell it to some podcast or some TV channel in another country or something like that, where they where they might want to buy your work. Carly says, yes, it is still expensive, but fine. Yes, I can imagine it's expensive. I can only imagine. Ellen says, oops, press lol by mistake. Yeah, I was like, what's Ellen up to? Definitely don't. One David says, do you get money for lights out? I do get money for lights out, yeah. So it's quite good as an actor, especially if you do TV, that there's like residuals that you get for the work that you've done. So I think everyone knows that. I don't think I'm sort of breaching any industry secret. Some of the other property that you can get obviously is physical buildings. You can, if you have the money to invest in something like that, then that's another way of having a passive income. It's sort of increasing in value. It's not a constant income unless you're renting that property out, then in which case it is a passive income, except you're a landlord, so you have a responsibility to your tenants. I try and be a good landlord. I've got a flat and I hate the idea of, I know what, I've been a tenant and I know what it's like when you've got a dick for a landlord, so I try and do my very best to just be a decent landlord and, you know, react immediately that there's a problem. But that's one way that you can get some passive income. Bitcoin, says Carly. I tweeted the other day that I was like, I think there's actual bubbles that have lasted longer than the Bitcoin bubble, because that seems to be on the way down. I think it was 16,000 for one Bitcoin and now it's like 10 or something like that. Mickey KC's just joined. Art is another one. I mean, you'd have to know the art world to know it, but again, like those physical properties, collectibles, you know, all that sort of stuff. You might have stuff in your shed, like old, I don't know, old Star Wars toys and things like that, that over time they only accumulate more and more value. As long as they don't depict someone who later turns out to be some sort of pervert or something, which is a genuine like issue. But yeah, there's all these I'm just basically talking about things that appreciate with value over time, that can be a source of passive income for you if you were to, you know, if you had to sell them or whatever. It's another way to get the things that you have working for you rather than you working for those things. Invest. So a friend of mine used a term that I really liked. He said, when I first started going to LA, he said, yeah, you're backing yourself. I like that. And I was like, gosh, I've never heard it put like that before. But basically what he's saying is, yeah, I'm investing in me. I'm taking a chance on me. I'm basically placing a bet saying, I think me might work out, you know. And so rather than like accumulating things and more things and more things, maybe where the money should go is in investing in you, raising your stock value by, for example, training. So, or acquiring a qualification. It's like, you know, even somebody that, you know, say you're an actor and you invest in a massage course and you learn to do massage, suddenly you've got a whole other skill that you didn't have before, that now you can you know, generate more income from than working in a bar, say if they're, you know, so talking about my situation where I didn't really have any qualifications other than working in post-production, and I couldn't really work in post-production because it required me to be full-time and I needed the space and freedom to be able to go to auditions. But yeah, getting training, getting qualification raises your own stock level and means that you can now sort of generate income from a totally different way that you couldn't before. That might be feel more rewarding to you. Definitely, David One says, like clothes, selling clothes that could be valuable. Absolutely. Like I bought a dress for something and I knew that I wasn't going to wear it again and I sold it and I got probably, I think just under half of what I paid for it, but that's not bad, you know. And I sold it on one of these sort of couture, this is ages ago, but like a couture website where you can sell stuff like, and this woman, you know, she wanted it for, I think, an event or something like that, and she wanted that specific dress. And so yeah, I sold it and I was just like, I didn't have a huge amount of money at the time, so it was just like, psh, good for me, good for her. It's just worked out all around. So you're right, David. Carly says, what about law of attraction and intending, feeling rich? There's examples of that working. What do you think? Yeah, I mean, the law of attraction is, when it comes to money, I think the difficulty with the law of attraction, and the issue I have with The Secret, is that I think that people, the way that it's presented makes it look like it's really easy. You have to live, breathe, and feel the richness. And I don't think everyone has drilled down deep enough when they try this. They've drilled down deep enough into their core beliefs about money and abundance to really be able to affect the change that they need, that the law of attraction would be bringing to them. Because on the surface, they might have their vision board and they might have this and they might have that, but actually they're still navigating life from the perspective of, I have nothing. It's hard for these things to come by. You've got to step in. The step that you've got to take has got to be one that you can own and believe, and actually genuinely believe to be true. Having said that, though, I am interested in this whole fake it till you make it thing, because this idea started percolating when I was doing one of these live chats of just like, do something and then the feeling to do it might come to you, rather than doing it the other way around. So there might be something in living like you're rich, and that sending a message to the universe to give you that abundance, and then you start to acquire the trappings of it. I think there's something in that, but I think there's more work required to make the law of attraction work for you than I think sometimes people realize or are willing to put in. I think there's really core values that sometimes they hold on to that are holding back the abundance coming to them. I think they have to get straight with themselves, about what they really believe about money. Example for me is that I have often had the belief, I've only just started to become consciously aware of it, but I've had the belief that I'm a trier. Actually, I started to realize probably a couple of years ago that I actually believe I'm a trier rather than an achiever. So I had this whole story going on that I wasn't even really aware of, that I try and I try and I try and I come second place. No matter how hard I try, I come second place. And so what does the universe give me? It gives me more experiences of trying and coming second place. Almost getting there, but not quite there. And I realized I have to turn that around if I'm going to sort of generate abundance. And I did. I found this quote actually, Carly, you just reminded me. It says, life is an echo. What you send out comes back. What you sow, you reap. What you see in others exists in you. Zig Ziglar. And I thought, well, that's true. If you've got these negative beliefs or these limiting beliefs about money, then that's what you're putting out. That's what you're going to get back. That's the experience you're going to continually reinforce by putting it out there. So let me just go back on your point. Speaking of clothes, you wearing socks? Just curious. Interesting question. Carly says, brilliant point. Thank you, Carly. And Carly says, so true. Ellen says, but not above your means. Say what you mean by that. Carly says, spot on. Thanks, Carly. Variety D, what up, girl? Happy New Year. And Pringlia138 has just joined the conversation. Welcome. Sorry, just patting down some hair. So, another thing on the investment side of things. Now, this is maybe a little bit of a controversial one that not everyone's going to want to be on board with, but time is money is a literal, actual thing. It's a real thing in the sense that you can buy time, and that's what we all do. We buy time because instead of, say for example, I'm going to use a cleaner as an example. So instead of you cleaning your house, which might take you a couple of hours every week or something like that, you pay somebody X amount to come and do it for you. So you've bought that time. I say another way of investing, look at my hair sticking up like that. I say another way of investing in yourself is subcontracting out that work that is done at a lower rate than your own, a lower fee than your own, to free up your time to create and do what you need to do. So let's use the cleaner as an example. Say there's you need to claw back a couple of hours every week. Do you stay up later and compromise yourself by sleeping less or something like that? Or do you hire somebody to come and clean your house? You say your rate is £100 an hour, depending on what it is you do for a living, but the cleaner is only charging 15 an hour or 20 an hour. I don't know, maybe that's an expensive cleaner. Okay, so you've taken 20 quid out of your hourly rate, so you're going to now earn 80 quid for those 2 hours, but at least you're now earning that 80 quid instead of doing 20 quid an hour work. Do you know what I mean? Now, this is a controversial one because you're going to feel like, I haven't got the money for that. So you have to work out for yourself whether you think that's a valid, like, it's like doing your taxes. Do you spend the hours it takes to work out your taxes? And if you're, VAT eligible, you're working out the VAT. If you're running yourself as a company, you've got to work out company finances against your own personal income tax and all the rest of it. Do you spend your time doing that every year? Or do you pay whatever it costs you to get an accountant to do it so that your head can be clear of that bullshit and you can get on with the business of being a creative? So it's just an idea. It's not going to suit everybody. And some people are going to be like, well, it's all right if you've got the money. It's, if I say feel that it might not be for you, I'm just saying that might be another way of investing in yourself, is actually spending the money to get somebody else to do the things that leave you clear, give you a few extra hours, a few extra days, whatever it might add up to do your thing. It's surprising how much that can add up. And also energetically clear your headspace of things like that, so that you can consider other things, consider your work, consider your creativity. I'm just going back on your comments. Izzy Var7 just joined, welcome. And it says, as in, live as if you are rich, but not above your means. Yes, okay, that's a good point, yes. You don't want to be, because I think this is one of the things that Jay-Z is espousing with this new sort of black excellence and black financial literacy he's trying to sort of promote, is like, stop with the ostentatious shows of wealth. That's not how we are going to give. And also they're starting to talk about legacy wealth, like being able to pass on wealth to your children in a way that black people haven't been for a really long time because of various socioeconomic reasons. Live like you're rich in the sense of like your outlook as much as anything. You don't have to start buying like $10,000 watches or that, whatever. That's not gonna get the job done. But it's more the mentality, the outlook, not thinking about pinching the pennies, missing the pounds. That type of mentality. I think you're right, Ellen. Wax Pusher, what do you think about the whole happy is the new rich way of thinking? How much does a creative person really need monetarily to be fulfilled? How much does a creative person... Right, Wax Pusher, I'm going to come to that. Variety D, my hair is messier than yours, chilling Sunday. You're right, it's Sunday. What am I worrying about, Variety D? Wax Pusher says, surely achieving recognition for our work brings more satisfaction than how much we own or earn. Look, I can't tell you what you need to value, but we all need a certain amount of money to live. I'm going to come to this. Let me come to this because it's a really good point. Roaz Car69 is just joining the conversation. Welcome. Ellen says exactly. And Citizen Joke says, invest in yourself is the best thing to do. You will never lose that. Yeah, because the thing is, energy goes where attention flows. So it's that thing, it's a saying that we have, is put your money where your mouth is like, if you really believe in yourself, then you should have no problem investing back into yourself rather than trying to buy things and a bigger car and, all this sort of crap. You don't need any of that stuff necessarily, unless you've gotten to where you want to get to and you feel like, oh, I don't need to develop any further as an artist. Now I'm just going to start buying trappings. And that's another thing. If you're P. Diddy or whatever, and that's your life, then so be it. But even he is still about growth and investment and development. So, there's always back into the system. There's always, and I think that's going to always be more fulfilling than things. Can't take things with you, but you can just say you had a full life if you constantly had that flow back into yourself and out into the world. And that's another thing. I think money should flow. I know doesn't always feel like that, but I think sitting on some pot of cash is such a sort of because money is energy, and if you're sitting on it, you're basically constipated. You're financially constipated. Money is supposed to flow. I realized that when I was, considering the tipping system in America, because, Brits are always completely confused by this issue of like, who do I give money to? So I'm just giving money to everybody because I don't, and I realized, I was thinking, why have you got this tipping system? Why don't you just pay people the right amount of money? And I realized for whatever reason, it's just a way of allowing money to flow through the system. rather than people sitting on it. I don't know why it's like that, and I don't know what the history is that it's created this, rather than just doing what, for example, the Brits do, is just pay people a salary or whatever, or a wage. But there you have it. And I think money is supposed to flow. So we have to. So if you sit on wealth like that, you're just going to get bunged up. Inhale my eyelids. Welcome. And did I say hello, Oasis 5? Hello, hello, hello. All right, so be smart. This is the other thing. You have to be smart with your money. You have to really, if you need advice or if you need to learn money management, get the support, the help, or whatever, the information that you need. There's so much. We can't claim ignorance anymore because there's so much information on the internet there for free. I was watching some live chat the other day on a Facebook page called blackdoctor.org or something like that. And he had a financial guru on, and some of the things he was talking about more pertain to the American system than to the British one, which is what I'm used to. But nonetheless, there was so much information that it was a sort of a half-hour live chat or something like that. So much information, and just really gets the mind thinking about, what am I doing about my own financial situation? Are there things that I could change, that I could do better? So get advice, get tax help, because I'm guessing if you're an artist, you're more than likely going to be self-employed, and therefore there's ways to manage your tax that people who are PAYE don't have access to. I'm not talking about tax avoidance. I'm talking about tax management. There's ways of doing it that will save you money. And you think, well, no, but I don't want to pay anyone, to no accountant to do that. But look, have a look, see how much they could save you. And it may be that it turns out to be you will save more than they are costing you. You never know. I got an accountant quite a few years ago because I don't want to be thinking about that sort of stuff. 2, I didn't really understand it. I really didn't understand it. I was starting to get out of my depth in terms of my my knowledge of what I was doing. I was probably making a right mess of my tax returns. And 3, I just didn't want to be thinking about it. I wanted somebody else to take care of it. And actually, they knew a lot more, and they were able to sort of do the whole tax management thing way more efficiently, and that's their job. That's what they do. So I was like, why don't you let the experts do it? Why am I trying to sort of Google how to do a tax return? It's like, what's the point? And the other thing is live within your means. Living within your means gives you freedom. One of the things that I nearly bought a bigger property at one point, and it fell through. And afterwards, I wasn't disappointed at all. I thought I would be, but actually I wasn't disappointed. And the reason is that I realised if I bought this property, I would then be committed to finding that much money every month. When at the moment, I was only committed to finding like a third of that. So that means that I now have to possibly take jobs that I don't want, that I don't want to do, that I don't like, because I've committed to this lifestyle of having this particular size property. So actually, when it didn't work out, I was like, that was a lucky break. And I did something much more interesting with the money. I invested in myself. And eventually, it worked out. Marcy May 1971 and Stacey PJ, welcome. Also, don't be scared to do something radical to give yourself a new financial opportunity or to change your situation. So one thing I did, I don't necessarily recommend this, but one thing I did when I was really broke is that the one thing I'd managed to do is to buy a property, a very cheap property at that time. And, I wasn't saving, all I was paying was the interest on my mortgage. That's literally all I could pay, because actually that worked out to be cheaper than paying rent. But even that I couldn't afford at one point. So I took a payment holiday from my mortgage, and I don't know why this was something that my mortgage company offered, and I took 6 months off paying my mortgage, and then I took another 6 months. So I ended up not paying my mortgage for a year. Now what they do obviously is the money that you're not paying, they stick on the mortgage. So it's a very expensive way to buy money. But it was a short-term solution to a problem that I was in at that moment of finding some extra money just to give me a bit of breathing space, because I was just like, I just couldn't generate the money. And in the end, I paid off some of the mortgage. So it took me a while to get to that situation where I could pay that money back, but I paid it back so that that extra money wasn't added onto my mortgage. So that's one thing that, you know, you might have to be a bit creative and think outside of the box. There might need to be an after show, guys. I'm surprised. I've had less pages and I've like still got a few things to say. One of them is to be resourceful, because I think it was Tony Robbins I heard just making a distinction between resourceful and resources and resourcefulness. Sometimes we don't think we have stuff, when actually, if you look at the resources in your environment, in your world, you realize that you do have a lot of things. And sometimes it's good to make a list of it. I can't remember, I was reading a book or something like that and saying to list your resources. And the things that it had me think about as resources, I was like, I hadn't really thought of it like that. Can you speak a language? Do you have any training or qualifications in a particular area? Are you owed any favors? What relationships and connections do you have? They're all resources that you have access to. So when people think, oh, I want to make a film, but I don't know how because I haven't got any money, blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, do you know someone who's got a camera? Have you ever worked in post-production, or do you know anyone who worked in post-production? Do you know how to use iMovie? Because that's how you could edit your thing. Do you know any actors? Do you know anyone who wants to be an actor? Do you have access to do you know what I mean? So that when you start to sort of get out of the mindset of I can't, I don't have, and start to think, what do I actually have? Suddenly things are more possible than you thought they were, because there's a saying, something along the lines of like, either if you want to get something done, it's either excuses or you just get the thing done. I can't remember how the saying goes, but it's like if you want the circumstances to be mountains that you climb over, or they can just be excuses that stop you. It's up to you. They can be this, you know, it's up to you what they are, basically. And also to consider yourself to be lucky. This is a fake it till you make it type thing, but you know, on top of luck being you know, skills and preparation meeting opportunity, I think luck is also a mindset. I was watching this as a sort of like a thought experiment or whatever they did, and basically they gave a bunch of people a newspaper, and on the newspaper was a solution to a question they'd been asked, and everyone looked through the newspaper trying to find this solution, but the lucky people, the people that consider themselves to be lucky, found the solution much quicker than all the other people. And luck is a mindset. If you approach the world as in, the world wants to help me out, you will find help. If you approach the world from the perspective of, nothing ever works out for me, it's always really hard, nothing ever comes my way, I've got to do it all by myself, then that's what you get back. So we might have to have a little bit of fake it till you make it, of just like, fucking look, I'm so lucky. Like, the world wants to help me, the world wants to give me resources to do the stuff that I want to do. And also, I'm very briefly going to touch on this because I want to get to the point that Wax Pusher made. Is just like, there's opportunities to get money, like grants, crowdfunding, things like Patreon. I'm surprised people don't use that more. Patreon to support you as an artist, which is basically, it's crowdfunding, but it's basically more of a sponsorship thing, so people can sponsor you. They pay you like monthly rather than like a one-off thing. YouTube videos, sponsorship deals, all that sort of stuff is a way of generating support and money for what you're doing. So again, I'm going to just touch on this briefly. Know your value. That means knowing when to work for free, when not to work for free, setting the right fee for what it is you're doing, being willing to walk away when someone's not willing to pay that fee. I think that's an important thing. And sometimes it feels like, I can't say no to this work, but actually, yeah, you can. Because there's always someone that will do it for cheaper than you, but there's always someone that's charging more. So why can't you be one of them? Wax Push, I'm going to go back to your point so that I can... Achieving recognition for our work brings more satisfaction than how much we earn. Yeah, okay. So this is I've got 3 minutes to go. So this is, well, I'll rush through those other points because this is the most important thing. Money isn't everything. It's easy for you to say, you've got money. Yeah, I do. And I've also had no money. And the happiest I was, I remember I had no money, I had no work, and I was sitting in a park near where I lived. And it was a sunny day, and I realized how lucky I was that I wasn't in an office, you know, because that's what I used to do. That's how the life I used to live was completely office based. And I realized how lucky I was, and I was just like, I wouldn't swap this for the world. Like I think I was already on this mortgage holiday, didn't know how I was going to pay the mortgage, didn't know where my next bit of money was coming from. Looking at the prices on everything that I was buying food wise, wasn't able to socialize in a way that I used to be able to because I just had no money. I remember a birthday party that a friend of mine had, and the drinks in this place were like £7. I'll never forget. And I worked out, right, I've got £28. I can afford 4 drinks. I can't buy rounds, but I want to go and celebrate my friend's birthday. So this is how we're going to have to do it. But I wouldn't have exchanged that for the world. There was a study, there's so many of these studies basically, but one that said, the one I found said that going from 20,000, this is in dollars, but you can translate it to pounds or whatever currency you use. So going from $20,000 to over $50,000 can make you twice as happy, but going over $90,000, so that's about £65,000, the change in your happiness is slight. So once your basic needs are met, money can't make that much of a difference to you. Yes, it can. There's a possibility of security, and it can create possibility for what you can create in your life. But in terms of having money, I've had a lot of money and I've had no money. And there have been times when I've been depressed as hell and I've had lots of money. And there's times when I've been blissfully happy and had no money. So we have to keep money in a proper context of it can create possibility. The thing that's really important for us as artists, because if money was the most important thing, we would just work in the city. The thing that is actually most important to us, I believe, as artists, is creative fulfillment. It's community. So having a community of knowing there's like-minded people out there doing the same thing. Appreciation for our work. And at Wax Push, I think you mentioned that. Being of service, I think that is eventually, you know, once you've sorted yourself out, being of service to other people, other artists, or other people in your industry is hugely, hugely rewarding, more so than a huge paycheck. And reward. Now that might look any way you want. That might come in the shape of appreciation, of passing 10,000 followers, of money, of an award, of recognition. But those are the things. So if you can generate that, and money, it sort of diminishes the value of money, the importance of money, should I say. Okay guys, guess what? I've done it again. I've got 12 seconds left. So what I'm going to do is it's going to be an after show where I'm just going to say thanks to everyone because I don't want to rush it. So I'm going to sign off now, but I'll just do a quick, anyway. Oh my God. Hey, Lucy. Hello. Hey, everyone. Maria, Yemi, Sis and Joke. I can't believe I've done this again. Jesus, Mandy, Ellen. Welcome back. It's going to be a quick one. Carly, hello. I'm really going to have to learn to just condense for reals. But you guys were like saying such interesting points as well. And I really love the questions that make me think, because what I think is most interesting about this is finding out what's true for me in this moment that I can share with you, rather than necessarily the pre-decided stuff. Confabulation galore, hello. Carly, thank you. So I really, really appreciate the question, because you're really getting me to think, and yeah, just really decide what's genuinely true. So thank you again, guys, for being here. I just really want to, one point I do want to make that I really want to hit home, that for me has been a big thing, is, and I sort of rushed saying it at the end there, so I just want to really reiterate how interesting it is how little having a lot of money makes to your happiness. Now it's very easy, it's very easy to still be very depressed. If you're depressed anyways, money is not necessarily going to help. Oh, thank you, Maria. Thank you. Hey, Elsa Arnold. And how also one doesn't have to do the money jobs as much as you think you do, especially if they make you miserable. Because I just keep feeling like we chose this life for a reason, to not have to constantly do stuff we don't like, to not constantly have to be living for the weekend, you know, that type of mentality. And that's fine, because some people want that, and they like that all they have to do is get through these 5 days, and they get these 2 days to themselves to do their own thing, and they get holidays, and they get security and pensions and sick pay and all the rest of it, and that's fine. But I feel like we as artists, we've chosen this life, so the last thing you want to be doing is getting stuck doing stuff that you don't want to do. And one of the ways that you can do that, hey, Marie and Carly collecting, it's nice. One of the ways that you can do that is to live within your means, so that you don't have to constantly take those money jobs, but also know when the money job is appropriate. So I'm not saying don't ever just do a job just because it pays well. Sometimes that's what you've got to do. I've definitely done it. And there's always a time when you think, oh, I can suck that up and get that money and make that money count for something. You know, that's one of the things that my coach said to me. I had this, you know, career coach, and one of the things that he said about this particular job that I had that was very well paid, but I really wasn't enjoying. He said, assign a use for that money, so that you know every day you step on set doing that thing, that you know that it is in service of some bigger thing. And that really made a difference. Not for long, because I quit the job in the end anyways, but it did make a difference at the time. So I was like, yeah, okay, cool. So I just wanted to add those two little nuggets at the end of that conversation, is that we've made too fantastic a commitment to our own creativity to get stuck and bogged down doing shit we don't want to do. Nonetheless, know when you do have to do the shitty jobs to facilitate something bigger. And remember that money isn't the most important thing. Those things that we talked about at the end, the creative fulfillment, community, appreciation, reward, being of service, those are the most important things. And money is just a little part of that. And just have a look at your relationship with money to make sure that you're not holding on to like these negative ideas that are stopping it flowing to you. Because it may be that money desperately wants to be in your life, and you, because of the beliefs that you're holding onto, are stopping it getting in. Or stopping it getting in an abundant way. It might just be dripping in, when really it could just flow if you let it. That's it. Who's just joined us? Verushka, welcome back. Jeffrey Smith, what up? Matihuru, hello. Destiny, what's up? I've literally just been having this, oh, hang on, what was Lucy say? I was thinking if I earned just £20 from something I created, it would have more value to me than hundreds of quid that I had earned by my own creative day job. Exactly, because that's the reward, the appreciation, and it's come from creating. God, is that a good feeling to make money out of what you've created. Yemi says, I have had money and a lot of stress. Now I don't have as much. I find I fret less. Yeah, the goal is to achieve happiness. Thanks for the talk. No worries, man. I think, Yemi, you're absolutely right there, is that, yeah, because the thing is, the important thing is how you make the money. Because if you're making the money and it's a way that's going to constantly cause you stress, it's like, what's the point? You know, it gets to the, now that you've made this enormous leap to be making money as a creative, then how you make the money is really important, because otherwise you're why are you doing it? You're just making more stress for yourself, and the money won't take away the stress. You'll have to spend that money to de-stress. You have to spend that money on therapy and holidays and all that shit. Why not just live within your means? Make money in a way that really works for you, so that making the money is joyful. And then you can spend the money on more pursuit of the joyfulness, investing in yourself and all that sort of stuff. Anyways, listen, guys, I'm not gonna... Citizen Joke says, well, I am glad you do what you do. You're an inspiration. Thank you, thank you. Jeffrey's asking me about Kiri. Can't say anything. Ellen says, yes, I meant to do 3 clap hands this time. Hey. CD Lifestyle says, can't stay, but I had to come show love. Oh, thank you. And I'll catch the replay in a few hours. Absolutely. Listen, guys, thank you as always for being here. Next week there won't be one because I'm on a personal development course. Woo, look at me. So I'll put something up to say what's going on, and I'm starting a new job soon, so I'm gonna have to figure out how I can make these work. I might have to do more of the open chat type things for a few weeks, but let's just talk. Let's talk about it. see what you would like and see how we can make this work. Hey Steve, literally just about to sign off. But thank you for being here. This is the tail end. This is like the after party. But the main chat is it should be already up by now. It should be going live. You did miss it, my love. You did. It started an hour ago. All right, guys, listen, take care, and I will speak to you, see you all on the gram during the week, and see you in a couple of weeks' time. No chat next week, but there will be one hopefully the week after that. Talk soon. All right, bye. Hope the quiche was nice, Steve. See you. Bye, Varishka. Bye, everyone.